as a posthumous legacy, like Gandhi or something like that, which was on telly yesterday. Oddly, I caught a bit of it before watching Long Walk to Freedom, and there are clear parallels between the two stories, and indeed between the two films. Did you meet him in the preparation for the role?
I didn't actually meet him. He was sort of very sort of weak, and there was an opportunity, but I chose not to. I just wanted to sort of do my interpretation of the man and do him justice. That's it.
And it is an interpretation rather than an impersonation.
Yes.
It's a crucial distinction, that, isn't it? Because as an actor, it's easier maybe just to completely copy someone rather than try and bring something of your own understanding, your own meaning to it.
Absolutely. And I think obviously because when you watch the film, this spans a lifetime of him, but a time in his life that we don't know too much about. And we have to ask the audience to take a leap of faith and look at me, who looks nothing like him, and say, just get engrossed in the story.
You say you look nothing like him. The last man I was talking to about playing Nelson Mandela, sitting in the chair where you're sitting now, was Morgan Freeman.
No.
Yeah, and I said to him, you don't look anything like him, and he got the real hump with me, so I wasn't going to say it to you. He was like, yes, I do. I look a lot like Morgan Freeman. If you ever see us standing next to each other, you can see a lot of physical resemblances. He did. He got the hump, so I was really holding back from saying you don't look much like Nelson Mandela, but you said it first.
No, yeah, we wanted to be really honest about that, especially with the audience. This is not the looky-like version. You're
bigger as well. There's more of you than
actually, he's a tall guy,
but not as
not as thick-boned
as you are. Did you have any hesitation in taking the role? I mean, it's epic, isn't it, for an actor, but for a black actor to play the most famous black man of the 20th century, it's going to be with you forever, whether it went well or badly.
I mean, look, when you sort of look at Morgan Freeman's body of work and you say, right, who could play Nelson Mandela? You say Morgan, you say Denzel, we don't say Idris. It's just one of those things. They did, and I was quite reluctant, quite sort of full of trepidation, to be honest. I wasn't sure how I was going to pull it off, but it was about sort of pulling his presence alive. We didn't want to be a sanctimonious. We wanted to show him as a man that has flaws, and and then give you some sort of appreciation of what he sacrificed and what he's went through to be who he became.
It's not a hagiography. You're quite right. There are elements in it where he emerges somewhat unsympathetically.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was important for us, to show that, and important to the family too. We spoke to the family and the foundation extensively about this portrayal, and it's all there in the archives. Everything in the film is very true. This was his life.
Were you surprised at some criticism of the coverage? Some people claiming that the BBC, for example, went in too sort of hard on it. They did too much, sent too many people to the memorial service and the funeral.
Well, actually, I have no idea. I went to the funeral myself, and I'll have to say it was a massive event. And I was privileged to be there, but it was such an event,
Yes, of course.
It was a massive event.
It's the epoch, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's historic.
Yeah.
When you say that, that Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, no one would have said Idris Elba for this role, and yet it's something strange has happened in the last few years. It's amazing how many so-called overnight successes have been 20 years in the making, isn't it? But
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad someone's finally said it.
Well, because it's true. I mean, we think, what would the evolution be for the average punter? You're going to go from The Wire to Luther for British viewers, The Wire to Luther, possibly to this, a bit of Thor on the way, maybe a little bit of so obviously it wasn't an overnight success, but something in the last 5 or 6 years for you must have clicked, in the sense that I've crossed a line now. I've been promoted. I'm in a new league.
Yeah, I mean, as quite rightly, somewhere between Stringer Bell and Luther, even though there's loads of different films in there, but those two characters sort of define moments in my career, and now Mandela. But over the last 5 years, this has been a massive determination. I'm 41 years old, and when I was sort of 35, 36, I thought, what kind of actor do I want to be? Where do I want to be in 10 years' time? And I do want to be a character actor. I want to be, remembered for bringing very complex roles to life. And coming from where we come from, in this country, there's a long list of great actors, and I want to be one of them. That's my sort of agenda, selfishly. But I've been very lucky to sort of get roles that really sort of make a mark in television and entertainment.
How did it all begin? When did acting become a path that you thought, right, I'm going to have a go at this?
It's probably 18, 19, I sort of done sort of school, did really well in drama class, and then did a sort of 2-year performing arts course, and then from there I thought I could actually make a living of this. And then I went to work with my dad at Ford's for about a year doing the night shift, and that cemented my my ambition.
Any sort of path other than that? Hard work.
I know, very hard work, and but it did certainly give me the sort of foundation and determination to want to be a very good actor.
How easy is it to step back into that world, into the world of a dad who worked nights at Ford, when you have been sitting next to the Duchess of Cambridge at film premieres and doing all the other stuff that goes with the Hollywood status?
I see, one thing about my family is I've just always been grounded. My mum still says to me, "Oh, I hope you get that other job," and I love that, because she just she's not she doesn't say, "Oh, you've made it now." She's
still worried.
She's still worried that you might not work. Yeah, she's always on about me, sort of saving my money. And I love that, because it does keep me grounded. It's important. I think in America and England, especially England, I'm surrounded by a fan base that actually keep me grounded. Yeah. They celebrate me, but it's like, Idris, you're one of us. I love that. I really do.
Yeah, I was picking that up on Twitter earlier. Actually, there is a sort of that some people in the public eye seem to connect as contemporaries or equals, and others seem to be like idols and distant figures. You're pretty much in the former category, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I think that's really important to sort of longevity, you know what I mean? Because people feel they grow with you. I got people that saw me on The Wire 10 years ago and now going to Mandela. That's great. That feels good.
And speaking of longevity, what is next? What's on the agenda next?
I'm making a film next year which is quite controversial and about child soldiers that I'm going to attack, and it's very, very different from Mandela. Really different.
This sort of Rwandan.
Mm-hmm. No, it's the Liberia situation, and I'm taking a role that's very controversial, if I'm honest. But actually, I did a small film here in England called The Second Coming, which is a great sort of slice of life of an Afro-Caribbean family in London, in England, that go through a very supernatural event. And Debbie Tucker Green is the writer-director on it, and I'm excited to show that, because it's a very small film, but it's a great slice of London life.
And it's probably a question you've been asked a million times, but when you get you start getting the pick of scripts, what do you then look for? Because the days when you took pretty much every job you were offered,
right,
because your mum would be worried that you couldn't pay your rent, they're probably behind you now.
Now I'm sort of looking at the roles that sort of just keep the audience guessing what's coming next. That's, if I'm honest. But I'm not a millionaire. I make decent money, but I'm not in a position where I can just choose scripts.
Sure.
I sort of have to make decisions based on financial. But ultimately, I'm choosing roles that sort of surprise the audience. That's what I'm doing.
And you're still DJing in your downtime.
I still do that. Again, grounded. They don't care if you're an actor. 2 Golden Globes, so what?
You can either cut the mustard or you can't. There's no second chances. Idris Elba, it's a brilliant film. It really is. Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. It does exactly what it says on the tin, doesn't it? It gives you an insight into the man's life that has probably not been covered much this week, given that it's been dedicated to remembering the heroics.
Absolutely, yeah.
Legend rather than the man, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's an important film, especially for young audiences to have a look at. It's a very inspirational film.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, James.
See you again, I hope. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC 97.3. Time's just gone 12. Mystery Hour's next.
On FM, online and digital radio, London's biggest conversation. This is LBC 97.3.
It's 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Eleanor Noakes. The jury in the trial of 2 men accused of murdering Lee Rigby in Woolwich has been sent out to consider its verdict. LBC 97.3's Joe Pike has more from the Old Bailey.
Mr Justice Sweeney finished summing up the case before sending the 8 women and 4 men to begin their deliberations. Michael Adebolajo and Michael Adebowale both claim they are soldiers of Allah, though the judge has made it clear this is not a legal defence. Both deny the charges but have pleaded guilty to possession of a firearm.
The family of missing teenager Jaden Parkinson are said to be heartbroken after police found a body in a grave in Oxfordshire. Officers believe it's that of missing 17-year-old who was last seen more than 2 weeks ago. Tests will now be done to find out exactly how she died. Here's Detective Chief Superintendent Andy Murray.
Jaden's body was removed from the cemetery late last night. A post-mortem will take place to try and determine how Jaden died, and our management of various crime scenes in and around Didcot will be dependent on the outcome of that post-mortem.
Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg is telling LBC 97.3 he's against any expansion at Heathrow. It follows a report earlier this week recommending it as one of two options.
I'm deeply sceptical that of the case of expanding aviation in a way which, unless someone can show me that can be done in a way which meets those environmental tests, because the reason myself and my party have opposed this is not for some no reason at all. It's for the environmental reason.
Nick Clegg insists he'll also wait for a final report which will be released in the summer of 2015. Jurors are considering their verdict in the fraud trial of two former assistants of Nigella Lawson and Charles Saatchi. Francesca Grillo and her sister Elisabetta are alleged to have spent thousands of pounds on themselves on company credit cards. The sisters both deny a single count of fraud. Private security firm Serco has agreed to repay the government £68.5 million after overcharging to tag criminals. It was found, along with G4S, to be charging for tagging offenders who are dead, back in prison or overseas. The Serious Fraud Office is investigating. A plane is on its way to South Sudan to help Britons after fighting spread following a reported coup attempt in the capital. More than 150 Britons contacted the Foreign Office wanting to leave. Officials are advising against travel there. Former X Factor judge Talisa has denied a drugs charge at Westminster Magistrates. She's accused of setting up an £860 deal to supply cocaine to an undercover reporter. And Adele has received an MBE from Prince Charles.
Civil Division, Miss Adele Adkins, for services to music.
The Brit Grammy and Oscar Award winner was given the honour at Buckingham Palace. London's travel the A12 remains closed into town from the Bow interchange to the A13 for emergency repairs. Queues are back to Hackney Wick. London's weather sunny but cold, with rain moving in by late afternoon. Highs of 8 degrees. Right now at the Shard it's 7 degrees. LBC 97.3, it's 3 minutes past 12.
The promise that I issue to you is that by 1 o'clock today, you will know more than you do now.
LBC 97.3 Mystery Hour with James O'Brien.
It's 3 minutes after 12 and you're listening to LBC 97.3. We've turned the cameras off now, haven't we? I can start picking my nose, can I? And scratching myself. Good. Mystery Hour, and you know how it works by now. If you don't, then allow me a moment to bring you up to speed. There will be something. And do you know, can we just say a quick hello to one of the main presenters on Radio 1, who was kind enough to tweet some very complimentary comments about Mystery Hour last night. I only noticed them this morning, so thanks for that. And the way it works is this. You will have a question puzzling you at the moment. You will have something that has you discombobulated or befuddled, and someone else listening to this programme will know the answer to it. It's really quite straightforward. And we try to bring the two together. So if you've got a question, hit the numbers now, 0845 606 0973. You will get through. And if you hear somebody else ask a question to which you know the answer, then the rules remain the same. The only real caveats are dullness and repetition. As ever at this point in the week, I have to remind you that we have a finite number of phone lines coming into the building, and they will fill up. They're not full yet, though, so 0845 606 0973. If the question you proffer is considered dull by the young lady who answers the phone, that's it, I'm afraid. Management's decision is final. Don't ring back. Don't clog up the switchboard. Let us crack on so we can get as many people involved as possible. And if it's a question involving motoring, it usually will be considered dull. Or if it's a question to which only you will be interested in the answer, it will probably be politely declined. And the only other circumstances in which your question won't be invited or included is repetition. If it's something that Jones the engineer and I, who've been doing this together now for more years than I care to remember, if we can collectively recall answering successfully the question you asked relatively recently, we probably won't do it again. And that's it. Things continue on Twitter. At Mr. James OB is the name you need if you want to follow me on there and see some of the attendant Mystery Hour shenanigans that unfold every week. Otherwise, we kind of confine ourselves almost exclusively to the phone lines. 0845 6060 973 is the number to call. Stephen is in Oxted. Stephen, what is your question?
Hi.
Hi.
First time caller.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. My question is, how do fish know to shoal together? If they have no use of mirrors, how do they know what they look like?
So why don't mackerel shoal with clownfish or sticklebacks go in with other types of minnows?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a brilliant question. I mean, in a way, it cuts to the very heart of piscine identity, Stephen. You're asking, how does a fish know what sort of fish it is?
Well, exactly. Basically, I've got a fish tank at home, and I got some new ones recently. And and they're shoaling fish, and they very much stick to just themselves.